A significant tropical weather pattern is developing across northern Australia. Two systems on the radar, one threatening the Kimberley coast of Western Australia, another forming in the Gulf of Carpentaria. Both systems require your attention if you RE in the tropics. Right now across northern Australia, conditions are building. Darwin S sitting at 35 degrees with high humidity. The build-up is well underway. Brisbane S been copping it all week, 38 degrees with humidity making it feel worse. That warm, sticky air mass has been parked over southeast Queensland. Meanwhile, down in Tasmania, Hobart saw -2 this morning, frost across the northern suburbs. That contrast you're experiencing right now is about to shift as these tropical systems develop. The immediate concern is tropical low 16U, currently positioned in the Timor Sea. This system is tracking southeast and intensifying as it goes. Expected landfall Saturday afternoon around Cape Levesque on the Dampier Peninsula, northern Kimberley region. Could be crossing as a Category 1, Category 2, possibly even Category 3 severe tropical cyclone. This is no joke. Conditions are extremely favourable for rapid intensification. Let S look at what S happening with this system right now. Satellite imagery shows clear and distinct rotation developing. The system S squeezed between Indonesia and a ridge to the south. There S a defined centre of low pressure at the surface. The convection, the thunderstorm activity, is still a bit displaced from the centre. That S not ideal for a tropical cyclone, but considering this system is still developing, it S expected. What S concerning is the massive amount of shower and thunderstorm activity forming along the monsoon trough. That S here pushing up towards the waters north of the Northern Territory. This becomes a problem over the next couple of days, particularly Friday and Saturday, as the system draws closer to Western Australia. Heavy rainfall and strong winds will affect the top end of the Northern Territory. Darwin area, Tiwi Islands, you're going to cop some of this. Not the worst of it, but enough to make things uncomfortable. The forecast track is fairly straightforward. Multi-model guidance agrees. The system heads southeast throughout its life, intensifying as it goes. Significant intensification is definitely on the cards. Landfall wind gusts estimated between 90 to 120 kilometres per hour. That's relatively decent intensification for a 36 to 48 hour period. The worst conditions will be north of the landfall site. That northeastern quadrant is going to be the star of the show. Those north of the landfall location, which looks to be north of Broome, will see the worst conditions. That is a bit of good news for Broome, but if you in Broome or Derby, even though you might not cop a direct hit, still prepare for Category 1, maybe even Category 2 impact. Here S, why this system is such a concern, why it could get stronger than forecast models suggest. Sea temperatures right now where the system sits are about 29 degrees Celsius. These increase to about 30 degrees where the storm is expected tomorrow, Friday. Then they push closer to 31 degrees as the system makes its final approach to the Western Australian coastline. 26 degrees is the threshold for tropical cyclone formation. 28 degrees is typically the threshold for severe tropical cyclone development. But 30 degrees, that S where we see explosive, very rapid intensification. This system is moving into that danger zone. Those jet fuel conditions for tropical cyclones. Wind shear in the vicinity of this tropical cyclone is very, very light, particularly as it approaches the West Australian coastline. There is an upper level trough approaching as well. That S going to enhance outflow. Think of it like upgrading the exhaust on your car. Makes the engine perform better. Wind shear is at that perfect number between 5 to 10 knots for this system to intensify. It could intensify very quickly as a result. The Bureau of Meteorology is expecting a Category 1 landfall. That is a conservative estimation. Fair enough. The system hasn't fully developed yet. We need to see how it performs in the next 12 hours before calling numbers for landfall intensity. But the roof is quite high for this tropical cyclone. Significant intensification is possible on the run-up towards landfall. Multi-model guidance shows some tracks where peak intensity reaches 70 to 80 knots in a few spots, some getting up towards 90 knots. That has sustained winds of about 160 to 170 kilometres per hour. Whilst that S not likely right now, 150 kilometre per hour winds plus is very unlikely at this point. It gives you an idea of what S possible. The roof is definitely quite high. Definitely. The consensus right now is landfall with peak winds of about 60 to 70 knots. That's about 120 to 135 kilometres per hour range. Nothing crazy. Nothing this part of Western Australia is a stranger to, but still definitely getting up towards severe tropical cyclone status. Something that will pack a punch. For Broome, prepare for Category 1, maybe Category 2 impact. Derby. You definitely want to be preparing for Category 2 impact. That is the worst case scenario right now. Winds likely between 100 to 120 kilometres per hour in the Derby area. For those around Cape Levesque, Lombardina and communities along the Dampier Peninsula, Category 2, possibly Category 3 conditions are possible. You're in the firing line. This is going to be short and sharp. The system crosses the coast Saturday, then weakens rapidly as it moves inland. By Saturday night into early Sunday morning, conditions ease off significantly. That's the nature of these systems when they hit land. They lose their fuel source, the warm ocean, and fall apart quickly. But while it's happening, take it seriously. Your homes are built to withstand these conditions. This region sees cyclones regularly, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't prepare. Secure loose items around the property. Stock up on essentials before the system arrives. Make sure you've got batteries, water, tinned food. Check your cyclone kit. If you in a caravan or temporary structure, relocate to solid shelter well before the system arrives. Monitor the Bureau of Meteorology closely. Fire danger ratings will be issued. Warnings will be updated as the system develops. Daintree rely on social media for critical information. Go to the official sources. Now, the second system, Tropical Low 18U, now officially on the Bureau S forecast for the Gulf of Carpentaria. This one is a different story, much less concerning than the Western Australian system, but still worth monitoring if you're in northwestern Queensland or the western coast of Cape York Peninsula. The expectation is a tropical low pressure system develops out of the monsoon trough sometime this weekend. It dragged down the eastern edge of the Gulf of Carpentaria along the western coast of Cape York Peninsula down to about Mornington Island. From that point onwards, the forecast remains uncertain. Multi-model consensus suggests this system has a chance of becoming a tropical cyclone. A few forecasts depict a tropical cyclone in the far southeastern corner of the Gulf of Carpentaria, not putting too much weight on that right now. Daintree think it's overly likely, but it's still a possibility. If you live in the Gulf country of Queensland, particularly the western coast of Cape York Peninsula, south of Waipa or Aurukan, there's a chance a tropical cyclone impact is possible. The consensus is this system will hug the coast. That means land interaction is likely to be a problem. Considering it's likely to be pretty monsoonal in nature as well, it wants to have the best upper level environment, particularly from a wind shear standpoint. That limits its development potential. The one impact worth noting, particularly for Gulf country areas, if this system crosses the coast at any point, we'll likely see significant rainfall accumulations. For the most part, it looks like rainfall remains coastal, but there's still a chance that if it stalls in the southeastern corner of the Gulf of Carpentaria between Monday and Thursday next week, we may see significant rainfall totals. The good news, similar to what we talk about with Darwin area systems, rainfall will remain close to the coastline. That means major flooding is not a concern. All that water falls quickly and gets pushed out to sea by flash flooding events, as opposed to riverine flooding events. This area of northwestern Queensland has really struggled with rainfall in the last couple of weeks. This situation could be worse. The bulk of rainfall remaining offshore. The heavy stuff that does come ashore looks light enough that flooding won't be too much of a concern. Just a heads up, we may see good inflow developing towards the far north Queensland coast, particularly the Cassowary coast and Daintree coast areas up towards extreme far northern Queensland on the eastern edge of Cape York Peninsula. Looks like a couple of days of showers tending to on and off rainfall is possible as this tropical low or even tropical cyclone develops through the weekend. Rainfall begins to pick up through Sunday and Monday, persisting right through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, before finally easing off into the last couple of days of January as the system gets dragged out into the Northern Territory. A couple of days of heavier falls, not much concern in the way of accumulations, but we may still see totals approaching 150 to 250 millimetres. Isolated spots could see 400 to 500 millimetres. Like I said, not a major concern, but still a factor worth keeping tabs on. Looking a bit further long range, conditions remain pretty conducive for tropical cyclone forecasting this weekend. There is good certainty with these forecasts. But as we push through the later parts of the weekend, the forecast models spread out significantly. Some tracks go into the Northern Territory, some head out into the Coral Sea. That means high uncertainty in the forecast models. In the dying days of January, we're re-expecting something to pop up around the Vanuatu area. Looks like we may see a tropical low begin to get itself going around the Fiji or Vanuatu area in the last day or two of January, then into the first couple of days of February. This has been on the radar for a bit. Could be looking at something heading into the Coral Sea, spinning around, moving back out by that point. But it's so long range right now, not worth worrying about. Just keep in mind that some action in the Coral Sea is possible through the first week of February. Some long range models support it, but it's not something to lose sleep over. Back to the immediate concerns. Mount Carbine reported 31 degrees at 10 a.m. with 80% humidity. Minimum overnight was 25 degrees, no rain. Storms have been going inland the last couple of days. Yesterday hit 35 degrees. That's the pattern you've been experiencing. Hot, humid, uncomfortable. Ipswich has been next level with the heat. These conditions persist while the monsoon trough remains active. Mildura, there's been talk about next week's heat wave. Tuesday, supposedly hitting 48 degrees. That is bloody hot. Dangerous conditions if it plays out that way. The models are showing extreme heat building across inland Victoria and South Australia. That S separate from the tropical systems we re-discussing. But worth noting, if you are in inland Victoria or South Australia, start preparing for extreme heat late next week. Check on elderly neighbours and mates. Look after livestock. Limit outdoor activity during peak heat. This isn't a just uncomfortable, this is dangerous heat. Brisbane's been sweating. Humidity on the rise, hoping for decent rain. Unfortunately, the rain you are hoping for isn't coming from these tropical systems. The Gulf system, if it develops, will keep rainfall coastal and north. Brisbane stays hot and humid for now. There's been questions about cyclones making impact further south than normal. It's a fair concern. Climate patterns are shifting. We've seen systems track further south in recent years. The 2011 systems, Yasi particularly, were significant. But for these current systems, both are expected to stay well north. The Kimberley system crosses Western Australia around Derby. The Gulf system, if it develops, stays in the Gulf or northwestern Queensland. Neither threatens southern states directly. For this season, will we get a cyclone similar to Alfred? For those not familiar, Cyclone Alfred was a significant system. These current systems, Don T, look like Alfred at this stage. Alfred had particular characteristics that made it notable. These systems are different. The Western Australian system has potential to be severe, Category 2 or 3. But it's not tracking the same path or showing the same development pattern as Alfred. Each cyclone is unique. The critical point, Don T, panic, particularly if you in northwestern Western Australia. Yes, a cyclone is coming through. Yes, IV mentioned Category 2 or 3 strength landfalls. That can be nerve-wracking. But your homes are built to withstand these conditions. This happens regularly in the area. Just make sure you generally speaking, ready for tropical cyclone impact. The Kimberley region knows cyclones. You've been through this before. Many of you remember Tracy. Christmas Eve 1974 winds up to 217 kilometres per hour. Darwin was destroyed. This system 1T reached those extremes, but it is still worth taking seriously. Prepare as you normally would. Follow the advice from emergency services. Monitor the Bureau of Meteorology. If you are near Cape Levesque, conditions on approach to landfall Saturday will be severe. Heavy rain, destructive winds, storm surge possible. Stay indoors during the worst of it. Daintree venture out to check damage until the all clear is given. These systems can have lulls that trick people into thinking it's over, then conditions deteriorate again. Rainfall with the Kimberley system will be significant, not just near the coast. As the system moves inland and weakens, it'll dump moisture across inland Kimberley and eventually into the northern parts of the interior. That actually beneficial for some areas. Inland regions have been dry. This moisture, once the system weakens, will bring useful rainfall without the destructive winds. For Darwin and top-end areas, you re on the fringe of the Western Australian system. You will cop some of the outer rain bands and wind, not the worst of it. But Friday and Saturday, expect periods of heavy rain, gusty winds, rough seas, not cyclone conditions, but uncomfortable tropical weather. Typical build-up season stuff, just a bit more intense than usual. The monsoon trough activity is ramping up across the top end. That is normal for this time of year. But with these systems developing, it is more active than usual. That means frequent thunderstorms, heavy downpours, high humidity. If you are in Darwin or Katherine regions, this is just part of living in the tropics during the wet season. But keep an eye on flood warnings. Flash flooding is always possible with these intense monsoon bursts. Cape York Peninsula, Western Coast particularly, you re in the potential impact zone for the Gulf system. Waipa, Aurukun, Pompura Au, communities along that coast. Monitor this system closely. It's not likely to be severe, but if it does develop into a cyclone and tracks along the coast, you will cop it. The good news is even if it does develop, it won't be strong. Category 1 at most. Land interaction and wind shear will keep it weak. But weak doesn't mean no impact. Prepare for heavy rain, gusty winds, rough seas. For those asking about the monsoon trough, it's a zone of low pressure that sits across northern Australia during the wet season. It's where tropical lows and cyclones form. Think of it as a breeding ground. The trough itself brings heavy rain, thunderstorms and changeable conditions. When a low pressure system develops within it and organises, that when we get tropical cyclones. The monsoon trough right now is very active. That why we're re-seeing multiple systems developing. Kilcoy and other southeast Queensland areas hoping for rain. Unfortunately, these tropical systems want to help you. They too far north. The moisture stays in the tropics. Southeast Queensland stays dry for now. You'll need a different weather pattern to bring rain to your area. Keep an eye on forecasts for the end of January, early February. There is potential for a change that could bring moisture south. But that still uncertain. The Victoria heatwave building for next week, particularly Mildura and inland areas. This is separate from the tropical activity. A high pressure system combined with hot inland air is going to create dangerous conditions. 48 degrees in Mildura would be extreme. Even 42, 45 is dangerous. If you're roaming in that region, start preparing now. Make sure air conditioning is working. Stock up on water. Check on vulnerable people. This is the kind of heat that kills. Take it seriously. Some have asked about the speech pace. Fair point. Weather information is important. You need time to process it. I'll make an effort to slow down where it matters most. The critical safety information, the specific forecast details, those need to be clear. But I also want to respect your time. You are busy people trying to find that balance. Bob from the Brisbane area provided detailed observations. Pressure at 1010 hectopascals, 34 degrees, 65% humidity this afternoon. If pressure grows slightly stronger, it'll balance and exceed the monsoonal push and force a recurve. But anyone's guess where on the coast. Right now, the developing disturbance has sucked moisture away from the area, just hot and dry. The wettest day this year was 108.6 millimetres on the 18th of January. Total this year is 420.2 millimetres over 19 days. Total to this day last year was 70.6 millimetres over 7 days. Average to this day is 402.5 millimetres over 18.6 days. So an average year so far, but the last few days have been dismal and dry. That is exactly the pattern. The moisture is being pulled north into these developing tropical systems. That SY Brisbane, despite being in the tropics, isn't he seeing rain? The systems are pulling all available moisture towards them. Once these systems move through, the pattern may shift. But for now, southeast Queensland stays dry despite being hot and humid. The contrast across Australia right now is remarkable, from -2 in Tasmania to 38 in Brisbane, from bone dry in Perth to monsoon conditions in Darwin. These tropical systems are part of that pattern. They're reorganising the atmosphere across the continent, drawing moisture north, pushing cold air south, creating that temperature gradient we're seeing. By the end of this weekend, both systems will have played out. The Western Australian system crosses the coast Saturday, weakens rapidly. The Gulf system either develops and impacts northwestern Queensland or stays weak and disorganised. By early next week, both are history. Then we watch the Coral Sea for any development late January, early February. The key message: if you're in the Kimberley region of Western Australia, particularly around Cape Levesque, Derby and communities along the Dampier Peninsula, prepare for a severe tropical cyclone impact Saturday. This is happening. Take it seriously. If you're in northwestern Queensland, Gulf Country or Western Cape York Peninsula, monitor the Gulf system. It's less certain, but still possible to impact your area. For everyone else, stay aware. These systems affect weather patterns across northern Australia. Even if you are not in the direct impact zone, you will feel the effects. Increased humidity, changeable winds, altered rainfall patterns. Check the Bureau of Meteorology regularly. They'll update forecasts as systems develop. Follow emergency services advice. Daintree rely on social media for critical information. The official sources are what matter. This is tropical cyclone season. This is what we expect this time of year. Multiple systems, active weather, uncertainty in forecasts. That S, the nature of tropical meteorology. Systems develop quickly. Conditions change rapidly. What looks certain today might be different tomorrow. Stay safe. Be prepared. Don't panic. These are manageable events if you take them seriously and prepare properly. Your experience and judgment matter. You know your area. You know what you need to do. Trust that. That's the current situation with tropical systems across northern Australia. 2 systems on the radar, one threatening Western Australia, one potentially developing in the Gulf. Both require monitoring, both have potential impacts, but neither is cause for panic if you re-prepared. Monitor official sources, follow emergency services advice, prepare your property and your supplies, check on your mates and neighbours. That S, how we get through these events. Together, prepared, informed. The weather across Australia is dynamic right now. These tropical systems are just part of it. The heatwave building in southern states, the dry conditions in the southeast, the cold in Tasmania, it's all connected. All part of the same atmospheric pattern playing out across the continent. Stay safe, stay informed, take care of each other, and we'll all get through this tropical